October 14th, 1962. It began like any other Sunday in America. Families gathered, children played, and an autumn chill was just beginning to settle in the air. But beneath this veneer of tranquility, a storm was gathering, invisible to the public eye. Deep within the halls of power, a discovery had been made that would push the world to the precipice of annihilation. A U-2 spy plane soaring high above the Caribbean had returned with images that would stop the heart of a nation. On the island of Cuba, just 90 miles from American shores, something sinister was taking shape. The ordinary day was a lie. The nation was on a collision course with destiny, teetering on the very brink of nuclear war. The crisis began not with a bang, but with a series of quiet, frantic meetings. On the morning of October 16th, President John F. Kennedy was shown the undeniable photographic evidence: Soviet nuclear missile sites under construction in Cuba. The secret was contained within a small circle of advisors known as ExComm, the Executive Committee of the National Security Council. Maps were unrolled across polished tables. The locations of the missile launchers circled in red like open wounds. The initial reaction was one of stunned disbelief, which quickly hardened into grim resolve. As the advisors debated, invasion, airstrikes, or a blockade, the world outside remained blissfully unaware. But the gears of war were already turning. Military forces were placed on high alert, and a naval quarantine line was drawn in the Atlantic, a line the Soviets would be dared to cross. By October 22nd, the secret could be held no longer. President Kennedy addressed the nation and the world in a televised speech that laid bare the terrifying reality. His voice, calm but firm, revealed the existence of the missiles and announced the naval quarantine of Cuba. Panic began to set in. In war rooms, the tension was unbearable, with advisors split between hawkish calls for immediate military action and more cautious diplomatic approaches. The days that followed were a torturous crawl toward a potential apocalypse. Soviet ships steamed toward the quarantine line. American bombers armed with nuclear weapons were in the air 24/7. In the streets, people watched the news with a growing sense of dread, the airwaves filled with emergency broadcast tests and discussions of fallout shelters. The world held its breath, caught in the terrifying standoff between two superpowers. The climax arrived on October 27th, a day later dubbed Black Saturday. An American U-2 spy plane was shot down over Cuba, killing the pilot, Major Rudolph Anderson. The hawks in the administration saw it as an act of war, demanding immediate retaliation. The world had never been closer to nuclear Armageddon. In that moment of extreme pressure, with the fate of humanity hanging by a thread, a critical back-channel communication offered a sliver of hope. After an agonizing series of negotiations, a deal was struck. The Soviets would dismantle the missiles in Cuba in exchange for a public U.S. pledge not to invade the island and a secret agreement to remove American Jupiter missiles from Turkey. The decision was made. The order was given for Soviet ships to stop or turn back from the quarantine line. The point of no return had been reached, and miraculously, the world had pulled back. In the immediate aftermath, a collective sigh of relief echoed across the globe. The Soviet freighters carrying missile parts turned back, and the dismantling of the sites in Cuba began under U.S. surveillance. The imminent threat of nuclear annihilation receded, leaving behind a world shaken to its core. The crisis had been a stark and terrifying lesson in the dangers of the Cold War. It led to a period of reflection and a realization of how close civilization had come to self-destruction. In the years that followed, the experience spurred the creation of the Moscow-Washington hotline, a direct communication link to prevent such a crisis from escalating again, and paved the way for the Limited Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. The Cuban Missile Crisis remains a chilling chapter in history, a testament to the immense pressure of leadership and a powerful reminder of the fragility of peace, underscoring a profound lesson in resilience and the desperate, enduring human will to survive.